minutes? 30 minutes?
Perfect.
Yeah, so here we go.
Perfect.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna get started. We're gonna keep the train moving. Oh, it's just 12 o'clock, so other than some logistical things, we're right on time. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna launch and we're gonna open it up for questions in the chat. Okay, so welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I am parent coach Kay, my clients like to call me, and I was failing my kids. Quite frankly, that's how I became a parent coach. Uh, my kids, tantruming, nothing was working that I was doing, nothing. So, so let's get started. This is about defiance, and I want to get right to it. So I like to. I'm always looking at what's out there on defiance. So I'm going to take a moment to just talk about defiance and what I was doing and what's out there. And I Google every day and I listen to experts every day. So here we go. All right. So we're going to start with a simple definition: defiance, right? Arguing, not doing something you've been asked, or doing it slowly. Don't you love that one when they do it slowly? Okay. Rather than a full out tantrum. Okay. So when it comes to correcting your child's behavior, this is right from the internet, and I've taken from them all different experts and hospitals and all that. Okay. So when it comes to correcting your child's behavior, focus on punishment is making a child suffer, model the calm behavior you wish to exhibit. And as you deal with the situation, take a long-term approach to correcting defiance. Well, you know what? My kid would be 30 years old if I were going that long. I would be, just be like, I'd be pummeled when he was 18. Okay. When you praise desirable behaviors and refuse to engage emotionally with their defiant acting out, a more compliant child will eventually emerge. Eventually. Wow. Okay. I'm going to go to now. I'm going to go to Yale. So I have different things, and then we're going to move on to how do you deal with defiance? All right. And I'm talking about your general defiance. All right. There's extra crunchy things that are beyond my scope, let's say. There's exceptions to everything, by the way, but I'm talking about your kid who has no problem being well behaved in front of his or her favorite TV show, or when they get the exact their ice cream, that they can behave when they want to. I'm talking about. All right. So when a kid is irritable, or this is so much, it was angry and yelling and screaming. These are common behaviors in preschoolers, and this goes on to how to deal with all of this. And it goes like this. And this is what I was doing. Okay, so the mom might be encouraged to learn about her son's favorite video game and the levels of play. Try to understand what's upsetting the child. This may help her realize she could reframe a request from the child, respecting her son's wishes to complete his video game. The parent and the child both learn different strategies. These things were hurting my head, and these strategies weren't working. The best therapeutic approach to all of this: know the triggers. How long do you have to search for the triggers? All right. And let's go to just one more here. Here we go. And this is my favorite one. And this is what I was doing. And if this is working for you, then keep doing it. And I don't know why you're here. But thank you for being here, because you're a wonderful parent if you're here, taking your time out today. All right. Simple ways to deal with defiance. 7. This is from a parenting expert. I don't want to say names because just no need to. You can Google this and get it yourself as well. Validate their feelings. Now, sure, we all need to have our feelings validated, but all we're doing, it seems to be, is validating feelings. And we have to also discipline feelings. We'll talk about that if there's time. So let's read it. So validate, look beyond what your child is saying to what they might be feeling. If they're feeling angry, is it really anger? Or is it more sadness or disappointment? Try saying, wow, it seems like you're really disappointed that I said no to your cookie. This is for a small child, right? Of course you're disappointed. You really wanted another cookie, didn't you? Okay, now, this disarms your kids, because instead of arguing with them, does everything have to be either or? And this is start reading this stuff. It's either you're a mean parent or you're understanding your child's feelings. All right. And when you do this, the wind will be taken out from their sails, and there's nothing to rail against here. And if you guess the feeling right, so now we're supposed to be guessing the feeling right, you might witness a look of shock from your child, All your child's anger might melt into tears before your eyes. This is all over the fact that your child's having a tantrum. Say yes with structure. What does that mean? Say yes with structure. No cookies till you finish your dinner. Okay, fine. That's not bad, right? If you can keep to that boundary, fine. No is like white noise to a spirited child. I understand we don't want to say no all the time, but sometimes they need, as one of my favorite parenting experts says, vitamin N. And spirited, I love that word because a nice word for a kid who's, I think, I don't know. Spirited child is strong will, but we won't go down that road. Agree with them. Okay, fine. Yes, I know you want the cookie. Of course you do. Okay. It's harder to fight someone if they're agreeing with you. And we finally go down to turn it into a game. And then I'm going to open up for questions. Making things fun is one of the best ways to disarm a defiant kid. It's almost impossible to fight when you are laughing or you're crying because you and your husband are having more problems over the raising of a kid than anything else, which was me. Make it fun. I'm not sure how far to take the example with the cookies. I mean, you can decide that. Try to mirror. Mirroring, sure. Okay, but all right. Just ignore it. Well, we're going to wrap it up here with that. Just ignore it. All right, have you tried ignoring a tantrum? It follows you around the house, doesn't it? So let's start with that. So if you've tried any of these things, ignore the tantrum. Can you ignore some things? Well, sure. Some things you can ignore. So I'm going to just be, how do you deal with defiance? All right. One is don't ignore it. And if you don't deal and get the small stuff, it grows into big stuff. It is that simple. If you cannot stop your 8-year-old from having a tantrum and you're trying to do it with things like, hey, I understand you're angry right now, and trying to get agreement from your child, trying to get them to buy into creating what should we do about your tantrum? Now you're making your kid a roommate. So first and foremost, you have to know you are the adult in the room. Why do your children have parents? We know what's best. And experts often say the message is, who do you think you are? What makes you so sure that you know best? Don't squish your child's spirit. Don't crush it. Meanwhile, they've been crushing our spirits all day long. So you have to be authoritative. Know that you're the adult in the room. And with smaller children, let's say 3 and up to 8, 9, use as few words as possible. Okay. Know you're the adult, as I said, because that's what they need. Another thing to know is that, happier, well-behaved children are happier, but it doesn't work the other way around. They don't become, sorry, I have a dog barking in the background. There's nothing I can do. When your kids get happy, they're not all of a sudden going to be well-behaved. And our job we've been told, you got to make your kid happy. Well-behaved kids are happier, and all the statistics are there. All right, so you need to be able to stop a kid's tantrum. And then I want to open it for questions. Put them in the chat if you have any. So let's take both hands here. See my hands? This is authoritativeness or discipline, which is to teach, and consequences. Let me do that again. So distracted by the dog. All right. I would put my dog on the ticket system, which is one of the methods I love, but it's not going to work. All right. So this is the hand that's unconditionally loving. Unconditionally loving, right? And that's who you are. You're an unconditionally loving parent. And this hand is authority. And sometimes consequences when they're necessary. And being the adult in the room. But right now, these two hands are not working together for most parents. We just have this one. The unconditionally loving, I'm going to hear everything you have to say. I'm going to allow you to tantrum wherever you want. And when I was doing that with I have older kids and a younger one, it was terrible. It just wasn't working. So do you have any questions? You want to put it in the chat. And if you want to unmute and that's easier for you, go ahead.
I was
Go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you so much for having us here today. And I've obviously seen you before. I love your message. And I'm just looking forward to hearing more.
Well, thank you. Do you have any specific questions?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. All right. Well, thank you for being here. So, this is, we have just a little bit of time together, and I don't, I'm not, I don't give specific direction because I do that with, clients and I do an assessment and all of that. But this isn't rocket science. So I want you to be able to take things from this time together because your time is very valuable. And let's take, for example, um, a tantrum. All right. So the if you have small, and I don't know how old your kids are, if you want to put in the chat, that's helpful. I mean, Alexis, I know how old you are. Heidi, I'm not sure. So, um, let's say younger kids, they're tantruming, not getting dressed in the morning, um, not staying in their rooms at bedtime, coming out, sleeping in your parents in your bed, or I have moms and dads sleeping in their kids' beds. Got a lot going on. And today we're trying to talk our kids out of uh, 18 now. Okay. Heidi, I'm trying to think if I know you. I have a couple of Heidis, but 18. All right. So are you dealing with defiance with your 18-year-old? I'll address that since you're right here. Oh, Heidi. Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, it's nice to see you. Okay. So, defiance with teens usually is, well, it can cover from anything from not turning off electronics, just ignoring anything. Let me give an example. So I was talking to a father yesterday. He has kids that are 18, actually 17 and 16. They're wonderful kids. And I said, "How are you?" And he said, "Oh, parenting." I said, "What's up?" And he said, "My kids," and his kids are fantastic. He said, "My kids don't do anything. They don't bring in a dish. They don't. They don't do anything I tell them to do. I wake them up in the morning. They're late for school." And I asked him. I said, "Well, would you like them to get dressed on time? I mean, what do you want?" He said, "Well, yeah." And he was very honest. He said that he loses it, and that he went to a therapist, which is terrific if you're someone who loses it. And I will always suggest to my parents, say, anger, there's no place for anger. And a lot of parents are more angry than ever because they feel like they don't have permission to be the adult in the room today. So yelling is kind of like the new spanking. It's ubiquitous. And then there's the guilt. I yelled. So, because when we don't feel like we have permission to say, I expect you to get dressed in the morning, that's what I expect. And it starts with that kind of authority because we don't have permission to talk to kids like that. That's the message I got. And I want to go back to this father for a moment. I think I might be older than my two moms here. I do not remember kids having tantrums at school at 8 and 9, and I don't remember in high school, God forbid, kids committing suicide or cutting, or I don't, that wasn't a part of my growing up. Doesn't mean that time was perfect, but the mental health of kids is worsening. So why is that? Why? And if we look at everything that's out there and you read on the internet what experts are suggesting that we do and how to stop a tantrum, and I listened to one expert who said, just I wanted to hug my daughter and hug her and let her know she was safe. It's Doesn't she know she's safe? I mean, are you on an iceberg somewhere? She's safe in your house. Okay. But there's all of this stuff out there that's not helpful. All right. So um let me go to, forgive me if I left my train, if you want to chime in and tell me where I was. Um so traditional stuff we've demonized basically. And it doesn't mean that time was perfect, but we didn't have these issues. We did not have kids that had no problem looking at their parents and going, F you, or just like contempt for your mother and your father. Like, what is that about? So, because kids need unequivocal authority, they need authority, they need leadership. And we've put relationship first. And that's why we're getting all of this defiance and all of this pushback, because we're more concerned with the relationship we're having with our kids than with being a leader to them. And that's why all of this is happening, if you boil it all down, that we're more concerned with them being happy than raising good citizens. And this was very hard for me to change course. I'm going to tell you, it was hard. But my husband and I were in the worst place. We'd already been down a very rough road with, we'd already been down a rough road. Let's just leave it there with parenting. And so we we go, what do we do? Am I going to try all of this other, continue down this road? And we couldn't. So things turned around, and it takes a willingness, it takes a strong parent. So back to, and a courageous parent, because it goes against everything that's out there. And what are you doing? All you're doing is making it perfectly clear to your child that they don't know what's best. That's really, in a nutshell, what you're doing. And you're not having a negotiation, hey, Tyler, I've talked to you about, that you can't really have that meltdown because it's really not, it's safe. That word is used everywhere. It's not safe for you to have a tantrum here. It's not, it's, whatever we're doing to try and talk them out of it. You can't reason with a kid. So now let's go to the teen, this father. He was yelling, and he said it was suggested to him that he just bow out, he just let go. And he had been scream free, not yelling, so not scream, but scream free. And I said, that's fantastic, because it took him everything to just be quiet. So he let it all go. And that's great. Better for you to have family peace, really. Better for you to eat cotton candy and have a great time and let the kids run the show than to have a raging parent. I'm going to tell you, after, I just know from that, from coaching, from my own experience, because anger is very destructive. So if that's a problem, I suggest always parents find a way to get that handled, and that's an outside thing. But this father, he said, well, they have so many pressures at school, I can't really ask this. And I said, what do you mean pressures at school? You're giving them a free pass to keep doing these behaviors, that not doing anything around the house. And more concerned with achievement, which is important. It's just that our job is to raise kids so they can support themselves, so they can care for themselves, so they don't go out into the world going, oh my gosh, my parents did everything for me and I'm not capable. So that defiance has to be handled. And if your kid's 18 and they're yelling at you, or they're not doing anything you've told them to do, you can turn things around. So, okay. So if you have a teenager, and what I suggested to this father, I said, no, you don't want to pull the rug out from under them. You just sit them down at whatever age, by the way. And when I work with parents for the first 2 weeks, those of you who've been coached by me, that for the first 2 weeks, we sort of help to shift your parenting point of view, that you can have all the empathy that you love from everything that's out there. Sorry for the dog barking. It hasn't barked for the last 23 hours, and this is how life shows up. So where's my authority right now when I really need it? Okay. All right. So I don't know if can you hear that dog barking, by the way? Let me find out. Okay. Maybe not. All right, I'll just plow through. So, let's say you have a teenager that's hardly, okay, great. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm just going to pause this and I'll be right back. Hold on just a second. All right, for those of you who just heard my firm no, I promise you it's not going to damage the dog psychologically. It's not going to damage your kids psychologically for your garden variety issues. All right. So when I work with parents, and I'm going to just suggest this for you, just look at what's out there, look at what you're doing. If is what you're doing working for you? In other words, are you trying to talk your kids into behavior? Are you getting into power struggles with your kids over them that they're not following your directions? Because the power struggle is on us. We're the only ones who can pull the plug on that power struggle. If you have younger kids, explanation always is going to invite pushback. So for the first week or 2 weeks, practice being authoritative. You have younger kids, practice this. I want you to pick up your toys right now. I'll be back in a moment to see that you've done it. And if you can't walk away, which is what I recommend, just turn your attention elsewhere so you're not staring at your kid. Just practice being authoritative, because this is not about consequences, methods, behavior modification. If you have a very well-behaved kid, sure, they might just, you might be able to sort of give them a little, hey, and they'll go, oops, okay, cool, I got it, mom or dad. But without a proper point of view, and that point of view is, I know what's best for you. I don't need to explain my parenting decisions to you. Not because, and you might think, well, we're not supposed to be controlling. That doesn't make you a control freak. It makes you a parent that your kids feel safe with. They can rely on you. They can predict, follow through with being authoritative and consequences. Right, they can, and so authoritativeness is number one, but it's not loud. You're not screaming. You're not going, I told you, put your things away right now. You're not doing any of that. In fact, this is going to make you so calm. So first couple weeks, even if it doesn't make sense, practice this. And you're going to have kids look at you and go, you sound weird. You're not interested in what they think about you. You're interested in raising a great kid, because you have great kids, right? Okay. So, and I know this is like the Cliff Note version. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, easy peasy. We'll get on a call. I'm happy to help you with this. I love to help you with it. All right. So you practice that, just saying things one time. Now, then once you have your parent point of view clear, that, you know what, I'm going to be done with all this other stuff that's not working. I'm going to be unconditionally loving, but I'm going to have that other hand that's not afraid to give a consequence if it's necessary. And generally, they are at times necessary. It takes 6 to 12 weeks to get a behavior under control. So please start with one thing. If you have a kid who's throwing tantrums, don't try to solve it all. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to your child. So what are you going to lead with? You're going to lead with a new way of, first of all, knowing that you better get this under control, or you have an 8-year-old tantruming. It's a nightmare when you have a preteen or teenager that you haven't established authority with. But never too late, never too late. With teens, it's going to be different, because you're out of what's called sort of that decade of discipline, if you will, which goes to 3 to 13. Okay, all cultures all over the world, right, have that decade of discipline. You have the bar mitzvah, the catechism, right? All cultures have that. So it's interesting to know. So let's go to that. What are you going to do with teenagers? Since I got someone here with an 18-year-old. You just want them to, as this father wanted yesterday, you just want them to pick up their towels, take a dish to the sink. And you've practiced not nagging. You practice going, okay, I'm not. And so for the next 2 weeks, you just practice that. You go, hey, Tyler, Jim Bob, pick up your towel, please. And they don't do it. Don't repeat yourself. Don't nag. Just do it for them. Just do it for them. And with a smile, no attitude. You're not bothered. You're calm. You know you're going to handle this for the benefit of your child. So, by the way, nipping their defiance in the bud if they're younger, nipping defiance in the bud, or if you haven't nipped it in the bud, before they leave your house, changing ship, turning that ship around, that's to the benefit of your kid. It's not to make your life easier, although it will get easier, but it's not to make it, it's to make their life better. Because kids that can respect legitimate authority get along better in life. And the only reason I'm talking is because I'm not getting pummeled here with questions, so I'm just trying to pack it in here. All right. And if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. So
I was just can I share something really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
So I'm a calm person in general, but I enjoyed the few months when you were coaching me and you were saying, like, say it with authority. And then with the defiance, so this is like a perfect example. of a cause and effect. And for the other mom, my son's 5.5. Um, he got mad at me because I told him to pick something up. I don't even remember what it was, but he didn't do it. And then he slammed his bedroom door. And then I told him, I told you, if you slam your door, I will take it. I'll take it off because I don't want to deal with door slamming when he is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then he breaks the door frame. So what does he do? He looks me dead in the eye, opens the door, and slams it again. And so I said calmly, all right, you've lost your door. Oh, well, no, 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 mommy, like whatever he was saying, like, you're not really going to take it. I said, yes, I am. Well, just take it now. And it was before bedtime. I said, no, tomorrow when you're at school, your door will be taken off and you have to earn it back. You have to behave, you have to speak politely. You have to be respectful. You don't throw things. And if someone says no, you can't lose your marbles. So now we're almost a week out. Max still has no door. He's asked me a couple times for his door. And I told him, I said, you need to keep behaving and then you'll earn your door back. But I think saying it calmly and then doing the follow through, like he didn't believe me. And it's like my boyfriend said to me a couple of years ago, his kids are 19 and 22. And he said, little people, little problems, big people, big problems.
That
I mean,
is,
Max
that is
is five and a
correct.
half. So like if
Right.
he slams his door now, he's not going to do any damage. Like fast forward to 16, I may
Sure.
be spending a whole lot more money on repairs.
It's a big expense. Alexa said, okay, I have just 2 more
Yeah,
minutes. Would it be all right?
no,
Would it
not
be
a problem.
with your permission, may I just piggyback on what you said?
Yeah, totally. I just was saying I did it calmly and then I did the
Yes.
follow through. That was
First
it.
of all, I want to acknowledge you for doing it calmly and the follow through. And I'd like to just to, if we, as I said, with your permission, it's a great
Yeah,
example.
totally.
So thank you. So you did really well. And what I would even suggest, and I know some parents hearing this would be like, well, what's that about? Taking my kid's door off? That's unkind. That's unfair. He's 5.5 years old. The only thing I would add to that, and again, I'm not coaching here in terms of for the general, anyone's that's just
Right.
jumping in. I don't know your kids. But, and I'm going to just request here, because I'm going to wrap up here, that that we're not a back and forth right now. And I'm just so happy to see you though, that there doesn't need to be explanation and power struggle. And it invites pushback. And even when I work with parents, I say there's no need to even tell a kid what you're going to do. There are times when it's appropriate, but sometimes that creates more of a power struggle. And sometimes that goes down you slam your door again, I'm going to take your door. And you did follow through. You're very good at that. And I knew that from the first time we spoke, that you were very good at being authoritative. Uh, but a consequence doesn't always need to be delivered in the moment. We don't always have to tell a child what we're going to do, because sometimes we are too emotional to even do that. So we get to take a moment, we get to be calm, we get to take the time to think, what's going to forward the vision that I have for my kid when they're 30 years old, when I want to be kind, respectful. So the back and forth that you had with your son, who's very, very bright, a lot of fun, may not have even been necessary, right? And but you did it, and I think it's fantastic. But does that, I hope that makes sense to you, that you're so good at being authoritative. You don't that an explanation will invite pushback, right? Uh, Sometimes just telling a kid what you're going to do and why you're going to do it, which is fine, but when there's a calm moment, if you will. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was like he was calm, like he got calm, and I don't react and scream. So when he like calmed down, he was like, "You're not going to take my door." And I said, "Yes, I am. We've discussed this before." And I told him, "If you act this way, it leaves. You have to behave, be respectful. You don't throw your things. You got to
Understood.
earn it back." So
Understood.
it
Yeah.
worked.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that it worked, and that, and yeah, and we have, some of us have kids that are just a reminder that oftentimes when we do open the door for the discussion, that can invite pushback, and it sounds like that you did just great, Alexis. So, but just to wrap up with this father that I was talking to, who had older kids, and I encourage this with all parents, and we're at our time, that after you've practiced this, saying things one time, and you're very clear on the principles of being what it is to be, not to repeat yourself, say things one time, expect your kids to comply because you're the adult in the room and you're not asking anything unreasonable of them. You're just simply expecting them to do what they're told. That's all you're doing. That you can sit your kids down and you can ask them, hey, do you like when I nag you? And they're probably going to say no, whether you have little ones or older ones. But with the younger ones, you could say, I'm only going to tell you to do things one time from now on. And you do your best to do that, to be authoritative. And with older kids, you can say to them, you know what, I've nagged you and I don't like doing it. And I expect you to do